Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life. Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's your girl, Bebe Clement, and welcome once again to Bebe Means Business, the show on business where you get all your tips, information, education, and knowledge on everything and anything to do with business. Here's a show that we answer all the questions that you ever wanted to ask about business, but you were a bit embarrassed to. We handle it all here on the show. I'm your host, Bebe Clement, and for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, I run a group of successful small companies, and I'm also the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, which you should find on the bottom side of your right-hand side of your screen. Today, I just want to welcome you. Those of you who have been with us since the start, I can't thank you enough for the support. I'm so glad about all the feedback that we're getting. It's helping us shape the program. And last week, we were talking about how to develop the person, the process, and the product if you want to be successful in business. How to develop the person, the process, and the product. Now, we ran out of time, so I want to spend a little bit of time finishing that up, and then I'm going to introduce our guest, because today we have a very special guest on the show, and then I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about today. But for now, I just want to finish off. I finished off the process and the product, the process and the person, and now I want to quickly talk about the product. So the product, of course, will include whatever it is that you're offering, whether it is a physical product or a service. So that would include something tangible like the packaging of your product. The packaging of your product should be top-notch. Don't go for shoddy packaging. Don't go for packaging that we can just get by. So look for top-notch, irrespective of where you are situated in the market. Look for top-notch packaging. Things like typos in the text, they're just a complete turn-off. So you must have excellent product. You must have an excellent product. So make sure that the picture's good, the pictures are of a good digital standard, the text is fine, there are no typos in your text, that kind of thing. The colors don't run. Those kind of things are just a turn off. So make sure that you have excellence in your product. But the product could also mean something intangible. It might also mean something like your customer service. Your customer service would also be considered part of your product. And I would encourage you that you determine from the start that you are going to offer excellent service as a standard. Excellent service as standard. And in order to do so, all your staff must understand the ethos of the customer service of your company, and they must practice it as a rule. So it's not an add-on, it's not an if or perhaps, it's got to be a given. Excellent customer service has got to be a given. And I would advise that you be ruthless in rooting out your staff that don't adhere to your customer service standards. You must do that, otherwise what will happen is complacency will begin to set in as a custom and affect your business, and you can't afford to let that happen. It will affect your reputation, and reputation in business is everything. And I've had to do this. I remember a few years ago, my receptionist had to leave abruptly because she was pregnant and she was having complications with the pregnancy, so she had to leave. And so we had to get in somebody temporary until we could find someone permanent. So I was out of town at the time this happened, but I was speaking to my husband. My husband said, oh, he's hired somebody temporary who can handle the admin. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I remember calling the office one day, and she picked up the phone. She didn't know who I was, so she picked up the phone, and I wanted to speak to one of the members of staff, but that member of staff was engaged, and I was asking, okay, do you know how long they're going to be busy? Do you know when they can get back to me and everything like that? And I could tell as I was speaking to her that she was getting increasingly agitated and annoyed by me asking these questions. And after a while, it kind of escalated, and it turned out in the end that she put the phone down on me. And I was aghast. I couldn't believe it that a member of my staff would do something like that. So I rang back and then I then introduced myself. I told her I'm Mrs. Clement and you're working in my company. And then she was very, very apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you and blah, blah, blah. But that's not the point. Whether you know it's me is not the point. That could have been one of my clients. And I shudder to think that a member of my staff would answer the phone or behave that way. So that was it. I asked her to clear her desk immediately. I'd rather not have a receptionist than have a receptionist that would do something like that. So you need to be ruthless in rooting out your members of staff who don't buy in or don't practice your ethos of excellent standard. So that pretty much, I think that ties up the end of what I was speaking about last week. Just to let you know, as always, for those of you who've never been on the show, this is a live show and it's an interactive one. Here, and we indeed try to answer any of your questions. I'll be taking questions at 2 o'clock once we come back from the break. You can hook us up on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @StarRadioUK, or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07539 661 744. That's 07539 661 744, or indeed email us at info@StarRadioUK, where you can get your questions in and we'll answer them, or you can join us via Facebook at Starr Radio UK. Okay, so that's the end of last week's show. Let's crack on with what we want to discuss today. Many of you, of course, are affected, as indeed as am I, affected by the whole COVID-19 thing. It has forced us to change a lot of stuff. It's forcing us to go through a change. We're not really sure where this change is going to take us. But I wanted to do a show on taking your company successfully through change, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's a redundancy program, whether it's an expansion program, or whatever it is. At some point, your business is going to go through a metamorphosis. It's going to go through a change. And most companies are not prepared for that change, as indeed most of us were not prepared for this. So to help me talk through the issues that arise when it comes to change, I have asked one of my friends and colleagues to join us. We have the honor and pleasure of having Mr. REMI OKESHOLA on the program today. REMI, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there. Okay, you're welcome to the show, by the way. Thank you very much for joining us. I know you're very busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time. Rem, do you want to do a quick intro of who you are and what you do?
Can you still hear me loud and clear? You look a bit...
Right. Can you speak up a little bit, because we can't hear you very well.
Okay, I was saying I'm already feeling the energy.
All right, can you turn it up a bit more, Rem, because we can't hear you.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Now we can hear you. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
Now, I was saying that I could already feel the energy from what you just said there. So I'm really looking forward to this. It really is a privilege on my part to be part of this. A bit about myself. I run a company called REMI Consulting, and the R does not stand for my name, Remy. It simply stands for real. Real business solutions and services. And that's what we're really about. Absolutely, that's what we're really about. I'm the principal business consultant. I'm also the director for the firm. And the three key services that we really provide is helping startups start right, helping existing companies to grow, but grow profitably. And we do a lot of work around finance and consulting for finance for both startups and existing companies. So that's the forte that I bring here today, this morning, or this afternoon.
Brilliant. So we're really going to be drawing on your expertise. Okay, so I'm just going to run through some of the things that I think are important in relation to change, and then if you want to just jump in whenever you think you can make a contribution to what I'm saying, that would be great. Okay. Okay. So if you are going through change at the moment, don't despair. We're just going to talk about some of the things that you need to do. I think the first thing that we need to do as business owners and business leaders is to come to terms with the fact that change is unavoidable and it's inevitable.
I think more than anything else, that we should have that mindset that nothing is going to stay the same forever. Change is inevitable and unavoidable. I think also from an employer's point of view, you must also understand that your staff are going to go through this change as well with you, and you have to identify how they are feeling. What are your thoughts on that, Remy?
You know, perfect sense of that. The fact of the matter is, if you don't change, things are changing around you.
Yeah.
And if you don't change, you're going to be moving backwards rather than moving forward. There's nothing like being stagnant. Second thing I was going to say there, just echoing what you said, if you are the leader of an organization going through change, you cannot, once you leave from the front, you have to take people along with you. Otherwise, you find out that you are moving and you look around the bend and there's nobody alongside you. You're running essentially. And it's just a matter of time when you find out that you are not your business, your people are your business. And that will have an impact. So there's a lot of happen with your staff as you go forward.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of help business owners address the kind of emotions that their staff are going through when they're going through change, when the company is going through change. I think sometimes business owners don't appreciate how important the emotion of the change is. So I think in order to kind of feel the way your staff are feeling, just think about a personal period of change in your life and the kind of emotions that brought up. And usually it's a negative emotion. You have things like fear, you have things like uncertainty, what's going to happen, am I going to have a job in the next 3 months, okay, things are all right now because the government is still subsidizing our salaries via furlough, but once the government removes that or reduces that, is my employer going to be able to afford to keep me? That kind of thing is going on. Also, apprehension and anxiety, even if it's not outright fear, just the anxiety of it all, the heart thumpingness of it all. The fear of failing, because, you know, sometimes you have a change, and even when the change is a good one, in business, even when the change is a good one and you have to adapt to the change, there's always that fear from an employee perspective. How am I going to perform in the new normal? Am I going to be able to adapt to the change? So the change in itself might not be a bad change, but there's always that fear and anxiety. Am I going to be able to adapt, fit into the new change? For instance, I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I'm a technophobe. So if, for instance, I was an employee and I discovered post-COVID that most of my job is now moved online, that would cause me some anxiety because I'm not very good with digital things. So a fear of failing in the new normal is not fear of failing in the new normal. That might, be an issue for me. And then doubt, is this change even going to work, or is this change even going to benefit the company, or stuff like that? These are, I think, all the emotions that an employee is going through during a period of change. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the employee is, as I said earlier, is a key to what we do in our firm. However, one of the big things that an employer can help the employee with, regardless of the fear and the agitations that they may be having, is helping yourself, the proprietor of the firm, depending on if it's a micro, small, or medium-sized organization, going back to that big question of why are we doing what we are doing? And having that conversation with your employees, not just yourself, but involving the staff, going back to the why we are doing what we are doing. It really helps the individuals, your staff, come back to this place of confidence that I'm here for a purpose. This is why I'm doing what we're doing. The methodology of how we do it may be different, but the purpose for why we're doing it remains the same. So I love that methodology.
I love that. The why, taking them back to the why. That really takes me to my next point. I'm a strong believer in the whole having a strategy. When a change has to be implemented, you must, as an employer, have a strategy. And I tend, when it comes to change, I tend to advise my clients to have what I call a HIS strategy, which is a high involvement strategy. And the reason why I advocate for a high involvement strategy is because it's one of the reasons why we don't like change is because it represents a loss of control, a loss of stability, a buffeting, if you will, and nobody likes to be buffeting. So I think when you have a high involvement strategy, when your employees are actually involved in the change, they handle it better, they feel better about it. So if you're an employer, I want you to consider these two sentences. I want you to consider the first sentence is this change is happening to me. This change is happening to me. And the second sentence I want you to consider is this change is happening with me. This change is happening with me. What do you think are the likely, from an employee's perspective, those two sentences, this change is happening to me, this change is happening with me. How do you think this impacts the employee's response to the change?
Do you know, that second bit of the statement you made there, with me, bit, is a very strong thing. Because once you accept that this is happening with me, it connotates that I am involved with this.
Yeah.
I'm partly in charge of this. It's not my control anymore. It gives me a sense of belonging that I have a part to play in making this change happen. And it's not going to be a case of what happened. It's going to be a I was with you for long, and that is very comforting. Very strong statement there, Bebe.
Okay, very comforting. Okay, so for you employers that are listening, these are vital tools for taking your staff with you through a change. Now, I'd like to look at the best media for communicating change, because communicating the change is vital. The way in which you do it is vital on the outcome and the response you get from your employees. It is vital. And the kind of media that you will use, or medium that you will use to communicate this change, will be very dependent on a number of factors, such as the nature of what you do, the size of your company, the type of employees you have. So for instance, let's say your workforce is generally quite young. Let's say you're a startup company, a tech startup company, and your workforce is quite young and hip and very go-getting kind of thing. They may not be as opposed to change as someone who is probably of my era, in their 50s, and they're maybe 5 years shy of retirement, and then suddenly all our business is going to go online, and I'm not knowing what I'm going to do, that kind of thing. So the way in which you communicate the change is really important, and it may even vary from team to team. You might not necessarily have a universal method of communicating the change. I remember a few years ago I was asked by Crown agents to come and do some training for their clients, and it was to do with leading them through change. And one of the things that we discovered was within one particular company, they had to use different media for communicating a very difficult change they were going through. Now, part of their employees were laboratory workers, and I don't know if you've ever worked with laboratory workers, but they're very, very concentrated. They hone in on what they want to do. They don't like being disturbed. They don't like being pulled out of the work every 5 minutes. So for that particular group of people, the whole big, when the managing director calls everybody and stands on the stage and talks to everybody, that wasn't working for them. They didn't like that at all. So they just wanted, you make the decision, tell us what's happening, just put it in the newsletter and we'll read it at the end of the day. That worked for them. But for the rest of the staff, that didn't work for. And I'm a strong believer that when it comes to a change, something like COVID, nothing beats the whole rallying of troops. so to speak. You know, when the MD stands on the stage, he has everybody there, and he rallies his troops. I'm a big believer in that. What do you think is the best way to communicate a change when it comes to something like this?
Yeah, if I can use an example, I was part of a merger of two firms, and you know what happens when a merger happens? Staff start thinking, well, there's going to be a duplication of my role with the other firm. You know,
yeah,
person to get the job. Do I have to go for an interview, etc., etc.? So that's an internal change that was happening, as opposed to COVID, that was more of an external one. However, the feelings are still the same, and the way to approach that was dependent on not just what the company was about and the size of the company, like you rightly said, but because it was a national company, we had to address each region differently, because there were slight cultural differences.
Wow, that's interesting. Even, okay, the same company, but in different regions, you had to address it differently. Interesting. Please go on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So some of them we actually had in the southeast of England, for example, which is right beside us here in London. We had what we called group meetings. So the teams had meetings, and I was part of the people going around the company with the MD talking to the teams. We had that in the southeast of England. On the other hand, in the north of England, which has a very strong culture of togetherness and working together, we had just like you described, a huge meeting which was rallying the troops. And we went back to what I mentioned earlier on. First of all, it is why are we doing what we are doing? It was always the first thing we went back to, because it helps people to understand, take their minds off the agitation, the concerns, but it's the why. You are here for a purpose. We need you in this job, and you're here to solve problems and bring solutions. So we gave them that information and that confidence in that running, to them before we started talking about the implications of the merger. So they understood what was happening. How we were doing was very, but we approached it differently. Small groups in one region, big in the north of England.
Interesting. Very interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that, actually. But yeah, very interesting. Now, whatever method you decide to use to convey the change, I think the most important things for me is that the communication has to be compelling. It has to be compelling. Like you said, I think it's a good opportunity for employers to revisit the vision for a start, to reignite that vision in the hearts of their people. And if that vision has changed in any way, to let them know in which way it has changed. But I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about the whole communication part of it before we get up to 2 o'clock. So just for our listeners, just like I said earlier, sorry, go on.
Maybe I just wanted to tell you there very quickly, there's one thing
please.
Also equally important to this communication, and that is about being honest with your staff.
Yeah,
they will see
definitely
trying to kind of just paint a picture that looks rosy when
yeah, definitely.
It's about being honest, but that's more of a value of the company.
Yes, I agree. Totally, I agree. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to go through some communication issues. As you know, I speak about communication, so this is another good opportunity to speak about that. But just to give a definition of communication, because I think sometimes employers don't really, they think they've communicated something, and they haven't. So communication occurs in any context where A passes a message to B, and the message that B gets is the message that A intended for B to get. If B doesn't get any message at all, then of course there's been no communication. But if B gets a different message, there has been miscommunication. And believe me, when it comes to communicating a change, there is nothing more dangerous than miscommunication. So it's important that you get it right. What is that you wanted to say, the not just the very words that you're using, but the heart and soul of what you want to get across. It's important that is exactly what you get across. So I'm just going to give a couple of tips on that, and then please feel free, like I said, just jump in at any time. So if you're going to communicate a change to your staff, you must make sure that that change is communicated clearly, confidently, convincingly, and consistently. So that change must be communicated clearly, confidently, convincingly, and consistently. And I want to deal with all of them, if you don't mind. So let's go with clearly, first of all, and then at the end of that, if you'd like to just, jump in there. So first of all, in order to be clear about the change, you must understand the change. You as an employer or you as a senior manager, you must understand the change. If you don't understand what's going on, you're not going to be able to communicate properly. You must be very, very clear in your mind what exactly is going on. What exactly is going to change? What is going to remain the same? That kind of thing. So you must be clear in your own mind what that change is. Do you want to say anything on that one, Remy?
Perfectly right there, perfectly right. Just to balance it out, sometimes I say, and I bring in this same thing about honesty. We are not prophets. We don't necessarily see the future. So we need to balance out what I know about this change is this. Mm-hmm. However, I need to be confident to say when I don't know and what.
Yes.
Because it engenders trust in the people.
Yeah. Now, in doing that, I think one of the mistakes that employers often make is they tend to hoard the information. And I think that's a big mistake. I think you should be as open as possible. Just like you said, I think you should be as open as possible, barring trade secrets and stuff like that and laws. But aside from all that, I think you should be as open as possible. Give as much information as possible to your staff, because if you don't, what happens is you leave room for ambiguity, and once there's ambiguity, that alone breeds fear. It breeds fear. Not only does it breed fear, it breeds gossip, because what happens is staff go away, they talk amongst themselves. People who don't have any real information will pretend like they do have information. A lot of stuff that is not true or is wrong comes out, and the effect of that is that there is a distrust. Distrust is built amongst the employees in relation to this to management.
Absolutely.
What's your experience on that?
I echo that, 101% about clarity, anything to try and avoid gossip. And in doing so as well, as people conveying the message, we need to try and anticipate the things that can seem as if this has not been clear. So there's a bit of anticipation in our position to actually deliver the message there. But I echo what you've said 101%.
Okay. All right, so like I said earlier, just make sure that you give as much information as possible. Then you need to be able to speak confidently. So again, that goes back to you understanding the change. Because there's nothing worse than making a change which is already creating an atmosphere of fear, and then I'm asking you questions about that change, and you can't speak confidently about the change. You can't answer any of the questions. All your responses keep being, oh, I'm not sure, oh, I don't know, oh, I'll get back to you. For as long as all that is happening, you're not breeding confidence. So I think it's important that you have to be clear about what's going on. Then you have to own it. Own the change. Yes, this is a change that we're aware of. We know what's going on. We're confident that we can deal with it. We're happy with it. That kind of thing. You have to own it, because at the end of the day, they're watching you. If you don't look like you're confident about this change, the effect of that on your staff is terrible. This guy doesn't know what is going on. This guy doesn't know what he's doing, and it affects how they feel about you, about their job, and about their business. Remy, we're gonna come back to that, but we have to take a break at this stage. Again, for those of you who want to send in questions, and we've already had some questions coming, which we'll be dealing with after 2:00. But by all means, please hook us up on our Twitter handle @Starr Radio, or get your questions in on 07539 661 744. That's 07539 661 744. Remy, let's join again after the break. So ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll see you immediately after this break. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the BB Means Business Show. And today I am joined by REMI OKESHOLA, the MD of RBSS. And he is a business consultant of over 20 years standing. He's worked with senior management teams who are under high pressure to perform at a very high level. We've been enjoying some of his input earlier in the show, and he's going to be helping me answer these questions. I've had some questions come in, Remy. The first one is this one is sent in by David, and it says, thanks for addressing my issues last week. I've heard so much about the government bounce back loan. I'm anxious about credit, and I've never taken on any credit since my business was set up 10 years ago. What are the pros and cons of taking on a loan in this pandemic affected period? Remy, do you want to take that one for me?
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Do you know what, was it David that sent that one in?
Yeah, David.
I think, David, brilliant question. I've come across quite a number of entrepreneurs. In fact, I've worked for an entrepreneur many years ago for a large organization who set her business up with no credit at all and was very reluctant to grow it through credit. However, I wrote a book quite a while ago called Other People's Money, and that changed the way I look at finance. There's nothing as good as being able to use other people's money, to leverage other people's money to grow your business. I prefer it in order to grow a business rather than to plug a hole. The only hole I would advise, and this is the pro of it, is if it's a cash flow issue. A cash flow issue in that you've got business out there, but you can't fund it. So you've got a contract coming up, but you haven't got the reserves to fund it. Leveraging a loan is not a bad thing at all. Now, specifically about the question of the bounce back loan, I'll use this expression in a very positive manner. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer simply because worst case scenario, if you are a disciplined business, you return it if you have no use for it. But if you have use for it, it's the cheapest money out there at the moment with the most favorable terms that anybody can ask for. So much so that banks, alternative funders have taken the government program on board rather than try and compete against it. They cannot compete against it with the rates. 2.5% is what a bounce back loan is. You have a moratorium for a whole year. If you want it, you don't have to pay anything back for a whole year. And then when you're paying back, you have up to 5 years, 6 years to pay it back. Your traditional
Wow.
give you those kind of conditions at all. You will be having double-digit interest rates. They'll be giving you 3 years, to pay it back. You will have to give a personal guarantee, if not secure it against your property or your assets of your business. That will be a traditional loan. But this is one whereby you don't have all of that. They don't even do a credit check on you. Wow, to me, it's like a grant.
It doesn't get any better.
You'll have no fears about this one if you have use for it. Don't just take it for the sake of taking it. Don't take back debt. I've heard people use it for different purposes. Use it for growth. Leverage it for growth.
Okay. All right. So the word there is go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say the downside of taking any loan is the same. It is that you still have to pay it back. So if it's a year or 2 years, you have to pay it back. Nothing is guaranteed either. In this industry this climate that we're in today, nothing is in terms of how you spend money, how you invest. Some people are a bit concerned about investing in this climate, but there are some industries that you can still be investing and still making really good money. But the downsides of this specific one, the bounce back loan, honestly, are very minimal.
Okay. All right, so there you've heard it. So if you have an opportunity to get it, go get it. The second question here is from Trevor. And Trevor says, wonderful show as ever. Thank you very much, Trevor. We appreciate that. We are lucky that the lockdown has been very, very positive for our business. and we've had an outstanding second quarter. Congratulations. Really pleased to hear that. We are now faced with an enviable dilemma. Should we expand or wait to see what happens in the short term? There are opportunities out there considering that some businesses have closed and some short of cash. We don't want to miss these opportunities, but at the same time, we don't want to rush into anything. Your guidance will be greatly appreciated. Remy, go for it.
That's a good one. I wish I knew your specific industry, because that would be helpful.
Yes, that would have helped, actually, yeah.
In terms of the thing about should we go or should we stay? The truth of the matter, Trevor, is that nobody really knows what this new normal is going to look like. However, I think we need to take some short-term, medium-term, and long-term views at it. So we need to break it down. So if I look at this in a short term without knowing what your industry is, you've kind of hinted that there are some opportunities out there for you. I will take them, but on a short-term basis. Okay, so I'm not saying put 2 feet in, but kind of look before you leap, but do take that leap in the short term. Okay, how it's going to pan out. Look, we are going into a time of high taxes and low disposable income. That is very true. So depending on what your industry is, you need to take that as a factor. High taxes, low disposable income. It's bound to come.
Wow, you heard it here first. All right, we got one more question before we continue with the program. The last question, Remy, says, coming from a lockdown, which has severely disrupted our business, which has really severely disrupted our business projection, what are the key issues to focus on as we restart our business? In addition, should we consider revisiting our business plan and forecast, or is that too soon? And that's from Eniton. Eniton's a regular listener, so thank you for that, Eniton.
Anita, brilliant question, and I'm really sorry to hear that it's had that kind of impact, severe disruption. It's had the same on so many other businesses as well. You have part answered your question by asking that last bit of it, which is about the business plan and the forecast. Absolutely so. This is a time when I've said this situation has been a leveler. Every business is now a startup. And that is an opportunity.
Wow.
It's not an opportunity. It's time for you to kind of begin to ask the questions, not only just why am I doing what I'm doing, but are my services still relevant for this time going forward? Be true and honest with yourself. And that's where the business plan comes in. But if I can just start with 5 things that I'm going to say I feel you need to be looking at, because they're key drivers to the business, no matter what.
Okay.
The first one is have another good look at your operation, the model that you have. The second one is have a look at the people that you have and the skill set that you have to deliver in this environment that we're going into. The third one is look at the systems that you have. What can you automate at this point? The fourth one is the marketing. How are you going to access the market in this new environment? And of course, the fifth one is finances. Please don't go by the look at what is possible. If we all be rich people, profitability, not turnover. So those 5 things, look at them. They're key drivers to the business, regardless of what the environment that we're in now is.
I think for me, the one that stood out the most is the systems one, because last week we were talking about this. We were saying that if your business is dependent on you physically being in an office in order to bring in income, then really you haven't created a business, you've created a job. So what you need to be doing is putting systems and procedures in place that you can go off into the sunset and your business will still be making money, will still be generating income. You could die tomorrow and your business is still generating income. I think we have to start thinking, and this is new thinking for us. And when I say us, I'm talking about predominantly black people. This concept of having systems in place is something that we're only just addressing, but addressing we must, because otherwise the effect of us not addressing this issue is that our businesses tend to die with us. And that does not bode well when you're talking about things like generational wealth creation. It doesn't bode well for that. So yes, I think that's the one that stood out for me. Okay, we're going to move on. That's all the questions that we have at the moment. Please keep them in. We'll keep bringing them in, and we'll try and take some more before the show ends if we have any more. But for those of you who are just joining us, today we are talking about taking your company successfully through change. And just before the break, we were looking at how to communicate that change to your employees. And I've said that you need to be confident in yourself about the change and what it entails, what it signifies, so that you can communicate that well and properly to your staff. Another thing I would ask employers to do is to examine the change from every angle. Don't be singular or tunnel visioned in relation to the change. Once it's out there, once you've communicated that change, let your staff be your sounding board, because I can assure you, you'll come up with things that you never thought about in relation to that change. So, and be open to changing direction, even within the change that you want to bring about. Remy?
Yeah, it's just made there, Bibi, about being open about the changing direction is very important. Because sometimes we're talking about change, and I've already got a mindset about what I want to happen.
Yeah.
And that is tunnel vision, isn't it? So that's open. I just want to echo, is so important, because when your mind is open, when you go into this with saying anything can come out of this, do you know what? You have an opportunity to take on board and listen to some of that blue sky thinking that begins to come through. You know? Yeah. So being open is a key one there for sure.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing the whole MD stands on the stage and talks to troops, although in this climate, I'm not sure whether that's going to happen. But for those for who it still happens, I mean, even if it happens via Zoom, one of the things you should remember is that communication, about 55 to 75% of all communication is body language. It's non-verbal. So you must be very careful, or you must take into account how you communicate the change. That's sometimes even more important than the change itself. So you want to be looking at your body language. This is not the time for alpha male, macho, go get it kind of body language. This is not the time for that. This is not the time for aggressive body language. This change is happening whether you like it or not, and you better get yourself in line. This is not the time for that. It's also not the time for indifferent, laissez-faire kind of body language, or indeed bullying kind of body language. Because if you do, you may think that, it doesn't really matter how the employees think. You will be mistaken in thinking that, because if you do come across that way, consciously or unconsciously, your staff will sabotage your change. So it is important that you watch your body language. Again, take into account the general psyche of your employees at this time, the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, and all that kind of thing. And the softly tread, I think, is the approach to use. Your views, Remy?
Yeah, the atmosphere that we're in is one where an approach that is more empathetic in nature is very important. And, when you were talking earlier on about some of the key points, and you mentioned confidence, when you were talking about communication, confidence and your body language says a lot about your confidence, doesn't it? You can be perfect, but your body just seems to be saying something very different. You're ringing in fear, your hands are going on. It's just not coming across well. It's contradicting what you're saying, and that's what a lot of us are visual. So I just want to echo again and say, do you know what, Bibi, if your listeners are listening to this, your points here are just on point. The body language is so important, even on Zoom. So you mentioned we don't have that opportunity, but we do. Even your facial expression, if it's on Zoom or Skype or one of the, Teams, the facial expression and how you're coming across, your voice tone, that is part of the communication that people are doing as well. So on point.
Yeah. It's interesting that you spoke about voice and tone and all that, because one of the business opportunities that has arisen due to COVID is companies are hiring me and my colleagues to come in and help them in communicating the change, because the fact that you're a manager does not automatically know how to communicate, particularly in these times. And we are training. We're having to train managers in things like what you were discussing: voice, pitch, tone, body language. We're having to train them. Like you said something earlier on, which I thought was very interesting, that every business is a startup now. I think that's a very interesting phrase, but very true. The more I think about it, very, very true. We're having to start again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having to look at
Having to start again.
Our businesses again, go back to our business plans, revisit our mission statements if we have one. If we don't have one, now time to begin to be clear on what your values are, what your vision is, what your mission statement is, because these are the things that undergird your business. This is the ground that we talk about, so that when these waves have come, when they do come, if it's built on something that is flimsy, businesses will collapse. But and saying, okay, I need to view this as a startup because things are going to be done differently. It's important now about how you manage your staff, how you take care of your staff. They will go somewhere else because that is taking care of us. As great as Amazon is as a business, isn't one of the things that we all hear about is that how they treat their staff is not great.
Yes.
However, they are excellent with their customers, but they need to find balance. They're customer first. They will give a customer a refund even before they even ask the supplier what we're doing. But the staff that do the job, there's been a challenge there. So it's important this time as well to be going back to saying, okay, this is a startup. How I treat my staff in this environment is equally important.
Okay. All right. I want to hurry along a little bit because I do want to hear from you personally about the changes that your company might be going through. So the last one on communicating the change to your staff is you must be convincing. You must be convincing. And your personal attitude towards the change matters. So let's say you're middle management and senior management have told you this is how things are going to be going forward, and you don't buy into that. 9 times out of 10, even if you don't say it verbally, the fact that you don't buy into it will be communicated to the other staff in the way in which you get that across. So your personal attitude towards the change matters a lot because it will affect the way in which you communicate. You also need to communicate the change with enthusiasm, even if it's a negative change. So it might well be, for instance, that once furlough ends, your company is not going to be able to pay staff anymore, and there are going to have to be some layoffs. Even within that, you can communicate positively. Yes, there may eventually be some layoffs, but right now we have a job, guys. Right now, let's be thankful for what we have in front of us. We still have a job, so let's work with what we have and not what we don't know. That kind of thing. There are ways in which you can package even bad news in such a way that it maintains confidence of your staff. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I don't want to be philosophical about it. That statement you made there about, do you know what? I'm thankful and I'm really grateful that today, at this moment, we have jobs.
Yeah.
And a job means that you are solving somebody's problem.
Yeah.
Look at it that way, that you're serving at this time. Some people don't even have that opportunity anymore to serve. They don't have that opportunity to use their skill set. So let's be grateful for the time we are now. That's me being philosophical. Now, if I look at it from my pocket perspective, then it becomes a fear thing, because then I'm thinking about what if, about 80% of the things that we fear don't really happen.
Yeah.
You begin to have an impact on your performance now. Well, if they are going to make people redundant, then you want to make it much more difficult for it to be you, because your performance is great, your attitude as well. So being philosophical at this time is important, but being philosophical in a positive manner.
Yeah. One of the I think most important things is that you provide a blueprint for how people personally fit into the change, because no matter how well you communicate this change, no matter how nice you make it sound, what all that they're asking themselves is, how's this going to affect me? That's all they want to know. How's this going to affect me? So I think it's important that you provide a blueprint for how they're going to personally fit in with the change, so that they can own it as well. They can personally own it. You're able to get their buy-in, because without their buy-in, again, sabotage is inevitable at some point or the other. So that I think is quite important.
Yeah. I think that's what I meant when I was saying earlier on about being able to anticipate. So going there and anticipate. That's important. Self-sabotage or sabotaging your business, that's a painful place to be at.
Yeah.
And all
right, we're going to round up soon, Remy. So I want to hear from you. How has this change affected you, for better or for worse? How's this change affected you in your business?
Bibi, we've been fortunate because we've had a very good run, a 3-4 month run during this time. But I say that in different ways. It's not just been a coincidence. It's been because of the way that we operate as a business as well. One of the very first things in response to this pandemic was I decided as the leader of the company that we would do some work that is more pro bono. And that was very important, for us, because we genuinely, going back to our mission, we genuinely want to help businesses. And I know that cash flow becomes a problem at this time, and a lot of businesses were being advised at this time, only pay the essentials, don't pay anybody, don't only pay your supplier, don't pay. That was what we were being told to manage cash flow. We didn't want our business to be a burden to any business, so we took a pro bono approach. But that came back to be of great benefit to us, because we took that approach and we weren't looking at the money first. We were seeing customers who were coming with stuff that meant they were having to pay us because of what they had experienced with us. For example, very good example was this. We went to all the clients that we have retainers with. So we have a retainer model as part of our business, and we gave all of them 100% pay freeze. So we asked them not to pay us. They didn't even ask us. We were just freeze to ease their cash flow as well. Because it's a retainer, we looked at our books and said we can afford this, at least for the 3-month period. And we've already begun to see those same people, not on the retainer model anymore, coming to us with other services around raising finance and paying.
Yeah.
Why? Because we've engendered a bit of confidence in them. And
yes.
They know that we're there for their business. Our
the
business really is to fund and grow sustainable businesses. We want them to be sustainable. And these periods, short-term periods, I know cash flow could be one of the key things that becomes a problem for them. We don't want to be part of their problem. We want to be part of their solution. And that meant
fantastic. I love it. I love that. Yeah. And in programs past, we've discussed the whole issue of we are in the age or the day of relationship selling. It's all about relationships. So so it's I think employers appreciate, companies appreciate the fact that these people stood by us through the bad times. They remember that. Companies remember that. I've done something similar for retainers. Unlike you, I can't afford the pro bono, but I have cut off large chunks of invoices and let them see. So let's say the invoice was for 1,005. I would let them see that I'm taking off £500 just to help, just like you said, their cash flow during this period. And like you said, they so appreciate it. They so appreciate it, and they come back. They come back. So you're not really. You may think you're losing, but like you said, it all goes down to the ethos of your company. It goes down to the ethos of your company.
Quite a while ago, Bibi, if you want to increase your income, increase your value to the marketplace. If you want to increase your income, increase your value to the marketplace. And sometimes increasing your value to the marketplace are these little gestures that have a financial impact on you, but see it as an investment rather than a cost. It's a short-term investment, not a cost. Because even though you take off that 500 quid, you've not reduced the value of what you're going to do. You're still going to do it, and
Excellent service, yeah.
extra service, but at a lower cost. But we need to be very careful about discounting stuff. I'm not a big proponent of it because when it comes to getting it back to the usual cost, it's sometimes a problem.
Really? Okay. Taking that. I'll take that. All right. I think we'll end it there. Remy, I cannot thank you enough. It has been wonderful to have you on the show. And we hope that you will join us another time. Thank you for your insight, for your knowledge, your tips. Thank you so much. Where can our listeners get a hold of you?
Thanks for the invitation. I've really enjoyed the discussion as well. So you can either get us on our website, which is www.rbssconsulting.com, or honestly, feel free to give us a call directly on 033 3355 1696.
You can do that number again.
The number again is 033 55 1696. And the email address of the website as well, the contact page.
Okay. Thank you very much. Listeners, I cannot thank you enough for joining us again today. It's been your host, Bebe Clement, and you have been listening to Bebe Means Business, the show where you get to hear all that you need to know, you learn all you need to know about business. Join us again this time next week. We'll be here. Don't forget, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.